In the depths of space, amid the ruins of what was once the greatest library in the known galaxy, senior archivist Vina Xartel stood motionless before a holographic display. Her 4 eyes, each capable of processing different wavelengths of light, were fixed on the ancient text floating before her. The warning, written in quantum-encrypted crystal, pulsed with an intensity that seemed to grow stronger with each passing moment. "Impossible," she whispered, her translator particles struggling to convert her native harmonic speech into something the ship's computer could understand. "This has to be some kind of mistake." The warning was the 47th they had found in the past solar cycle, each from a different extinct civilization, each saying essentially the same thing. "Beware the humans." Behind her, Analysis Officer Krell manipulated the ship's sensors with his thought tendrils, running another diagnostic on the crystal. "No mistake, Senior Archivist. The dating puts this warning at approximately 15 million years ago. That's nearly 14.9 million years before humans evolved from their primitive ancestors." Vina's skin rippled with patches of deep blue, a sign of deep disturbance among her species. The warning wasn't just about humans. It was a detailed analysis of their potential. It described with frightening accuracy their adaptability, their problem-solving capabilities, and most disturbing of all, their inexplicable ability to achieve the impossible through what the ancient text called sheer stubborn determination. "Pull up the others," she commanded, her voice resonating through the chamber. Immediately, 46 other holographic displays materialized around her, each containing warnings from civilizations that had achieved technological supremacy only to vanish mysteriously from the galaxy. The Crystalline Collective, masters of quantum computing, had left elaborate simulations showing humans bypassing fundamental laws of physics through what they termed creative workarounds. The Nth Dimension scholars, beings of pure thought and energy, had devoted entire data cores to documenting human potential for turning theoretical impossibilities into practical solutions. "There's something else," Krell announced, his thought tendrils pulsing with excitement. "We found their observation records." The holographic displays shifted, showing footage from ancient monitoring stations. Vina watched in fascination as primitive humans, barely able to harness electricity, solved problems that should have required centuries more technological advancement. They achieved powered flight using technology that by all reasonable calculations shouldn't have worked. They split the atom using equipment that looked like it had been assembled from spare parts. "Look at this entry," Krell said, highlighting one particular warning. "The Starborn Federation, Type IOA civilization, masters of 11 galaxies. Their final message before disappearing. They will surpass us all, not through superior technology or greater intelligence, but because they simply refuse to accept failure as an option." Vina's secondary heart began beating faster as she processed the implications. Every civilization that had left these warnings had been far more advanced than humanity's current level. Yet they had all vanished, leaving behind only these desperate messages about a species that hadn't even existed when the warnings were written. "There's more," Krell continued, his thought tendrils trembling. "The latest quantum scans from Earth show they're on the verge of discovering faster than light travel." "But that's not possible," Vina protested. "Their current technology level shouldn't allow for that for at least another 1,000 years. According to our latest intelligence, they're doing it with something they call a coffee-powered probability drive." Vina's skin shifted to a pale gray. "They're using a stimulant beverage to alter quantum probability. Apparently, one of their scientists spilled this coffee on their quantum calculations, and somehow the coffee stain pattern revealed a new approach to FTL theory." The chamber fell silent except for the soft hum of the ancient library's power systems. Vina moved to the central console, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "We need to compile all of this. The Council must be informed immediately." "Should we recommend intervention?" Krell asked, his thought tendrils curling anxiously. Vina looked again at the warnings surrounding them, each one a testament to the futility of trying to contain humanity's potential. "No," she said finally. The warnings are clear about that too. Every civilization that tried to intervene only accelerated human development. The quantum collective attempted to restrict human access to higher mathematics. Within a decade, humans had developed what they called napkin math, solving complex quantum equations on disposable paper squares while eating lunch. She began composing her report to the Council, knowing it would cause unprecedented concern. Humanity wasn't just developing, they were evolving in ways that defied prediction. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, the ghosts of 47 dead civilizations had left warnings that were both a prophecy and a eulogy. Send a priority message to all observation posts, she instructed Krell. Tell them to maintain distance and under no circumstances attempt to interfere. We'll watch, we'll learn, and maybe we'll finally understand what these civilizations saw coming. As if in response, the ancient warning crystals pulsed once more, their light casting long shadows through the library ruins. The message was clear. Humanity was coming, and the galaxy would never be the same. The research vessel Eternal Seeker drifted silently through the debris field of what had once been the crown jewel of the Axiom Empire. Venus stood at the observation deck, her 4 eyes reflecting the glittering fragments of a civilization that had once spanned 3 galaxies. Behind her, Krell's thought tendrils worked furiously over a newly discovered data core. Senior Archivist, Krell's harmonics vibrated with urgency. I've managed to decrypt the final transmission. It's different from the others. Vina turned from the viewport, her skin shifting to the deep purple of focused attention. The Axiom Empire had been the most advanced of all the civilizations they'd studied, the only one to achieve Type IV status, capable of manipulating the very fabric of space-time itself. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the last recorded moments of the Axiom's Supreme Council. The beings in the recording were creatures of pure energy, their forms barely contained within crystalline matrices. The timestamp indicated this was recorded mere hours before their mysterious disappearance. To any who find this, the leading figure's voice echoed through quantum translation. We have failed. We tried to understand them. We tried to predict them. We tried to stop them. Every attempt only made them stronger. Vina's secondary heart skipped a beat. The supreme beings of the Axiom Empire, masters of reality itself, speaking with such fear. The recording continued. We discovered something about humans that defies all universal constants. They don't follow the rules of probability. They don't adhere to the laws of causality. When faced with an impossible situation, they don't accept impossibility as an answer. Krell's thought tendrils curled inward. That matches our current observations. Last week, a human research team solved a quantum paradox by, and I quote, hitting the equation with a hammer until it worked. The Axiom leader's form pulsed with what seemed like resigned amusement. We tried to calculate their development path. Our most advanced probability engines, capable of predicting the evolution of entire galaxies, failed when applied to humans. They achieve things not because they're possible, but because no one told them they were impossible. The recording showed a series of simulations. Humans surviving in environments that should have been lethal. Humans developing technologies that violated fundamental laws of physics. Humans forming alliances with species that should have been completely incompatible with their biology. But here is what truly terrifies us, the Axiom leader continued. They do it all with a sense of wonder. Where we saw boundaries, they saw challenges. Where we saw dangers, they saw opportunities. Where we saw the end, they saw only the beginning. New data streams appeared, showing human achievements that had occurred after the recording was made. A space station built from salvaged debris that somehow functioned better than its original design. A faster-than-light communication system developed by a human child playing with quantum building blocks. We are leaving this galaxy, the Axiom leader announced. Not out of fear, but out of respect. The universe has chosen its next caretakers, and they are not us. We've seen the simulations. We've run the calculations. Humanity will either destroy everything or save everything, and the most terrifying part is that the probability of both outcomes is simultaneously 100%. Venus' skin rippled with patches of theoretical uncertainty, a rare condition among her species. Krell, what's the status of the human FTL project? They've finished it, Krell replied, his thought tendrils trembling. Using technology that's 3,000 years behind what should be necessary. They're calling it the improbability drive, apparently as some sort of joke. The recording flickered one final time. To those who find this message, do not attempt to control them. Do not attempt to stop them. The quantum collective tried. The Star Weavers tried. We tried. Each attempt only served to accelerate their development. They turned our barriers into stepping stones, our warnings into challenges, our opposition into inspiration. The leaders' form began to fade. We leave you with this final observation. Humanity's greatest strength is not their technology, not their adaptability, not even their determination. It's their ability to make the impossible seem inevitable. They don't break the rules of reality. They convince reality to change its rules. As the recording ended, Venus' skin shifted through colors that had no name in any known language. Update the council, she ordered. Tell them we found confirmation of our worst fears and our greatest hopes. Which is? Krill asked, though his thought tendrils suggested he already knew the answer. That humanity isn't just another species discovering its place in the universe, Vina replied, watching as another piece of the ancient empire drifted past their viewport. They're the universe discovering new possibilities through them. The data core pulsed one final time, displaying the Axiom Empire's last recorded words. The humans are coming, and they will either be the best thing that ever happened to the galaxy, or the most entertaining way it could possibly end. As if to punctuate this prophecy, their sensors detected a new signal. The first human faster-than-light vessel had just broken the light barrier using a drive system that, according to every known law of physics, should have turned the solar system into a very brief but spectacular light show. Instead, it worked perfectly, because nobody had told them it couldn't. The observation center hung in the void between stars, its quantum-cloaked hull rendering it invisible to even the most advanced detection systems. Inside, representatives from 17 surviving spacefaring civilizations gathered around a massive holographic display of Earth and its rapidly expanding sphere of influence. Chief Observer Lyra, a beam of crystalline thought patterns, watched in barely contained astonishment as the latest reports streamed in. Her form flickered with each new data point, creating prismatic patterns that reflected her growing concern. They've done it again, she announced to the assembled observers. The humans have managed to colonize a Class 12 death world. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the chamber. Class 12 planets were considered uninhabitable by every known standard. The atmosphere alone should have dissolved any conventional matter on contact. How? Demanded Representative Zorn, his plasma-based form pulsing with incredulity. The environmental conditions are impossible to overcome with their current technology level. Lyra's crystalline structure chimed with what might have been nervous laughter. They built environmental suits out of recycled food containers and sealed them with something they called duct tape. Then they engineered bacteria to eat the toxic atmosphere and excrete breathable air. That's not possible, Zorn insisted. The molecular physics alone. They didn't bother with the physics, Lyra interrupted. According to our surveillance, when their scientists pointed out it was impossible, the engineering team said, "Hold my beer," and did it anyway. The holographic display shifted to show the human colony, a sprawling complex of structures that shouldn't have been able to exist. The buildings were constructed from materials that should have disintegrated, protected by shields that defied known energy patterns, powered by reactors that somehow generated more energy than they consumed. There's more, reported Tech, the cybernetic analyst whose circuits were constantly overheating trying to process human innovation patterns. They've started what they call terraforming. They're not just adapting to the planet's conditions. They are changing the planet to suit them. The observers watched as human machines, cobbled together from seemingly random parts, systematically altered the planet's atmosphere, geology, and electromagnetic field. It was like watching evolution on fast forward, directed by beings who treated universal constants as mere suggestions. The warnings were right, Lyra said softly. The ancient civilizations saw this coming. Humans don't just survive. They rewrite the rules of survival itself. The display shifted again, showing various human achievements that had been logged over the past solar cycle. A teenage human had accidentally created a room-temperature superconductor while trying to make ice cream. A group of human hobbyists had developed quantum entanglement communication using parts from outdated entertainment devices. A human child's crayon drawing had inadvertently solved a mathematical problem that had stumped the greatest minds of the quantum collective. Most concerning of all, Tech added, his circuits glowing hot. They're beginning to notice us. The chamber fell silent. The observation posts had been carefully hidden using technology far beyond human capabilities. Yet somehow, 3 days ago, a human conspiracy theorist posted what they called a crazy theory online. Tech continued. They correctly identified the location of 5 of our observation posts, though they believe we're something called space dolphins. How? Zorn demanded. Our quantum cloaking. They spotted the gravitational micro-distortions we create by accident, Lyra explained. Using a homemade detector built from a modified microwave oven, and again, duct tape. The implications weren't lost on anyone present. The humans weren't just advancing. They were about to discover they weren't alone in the universe. And they were going to do it using technology that shouldn't work, achieving results that shouldn't be possible, all while treating the fundamental laws of reality as optional guidelines. New data incoming, Tech announced, his voice carrying the electronic equivalent of awe. They've just developed what they're calling a probability bypass engine. It seems to work by temporarily convincing the universe that impossible things are actually quite reasonable. Lyra's crystalline form resonated with a frequency that in her species passed for hysterical laughter. Of course they have. And let me guess, it runs on coffee. Actually, Tech replied, they found that tea works better for quantum improbability manipulation. Coffee is now reserved for faster-than-light travel and paradox resolution. The observers watched as humanity continued to casually violate the laws of physics, biology, and probability. They weren't just exploring the universe. They were negotiating with it, challenging it, befriending it, and occasionally tricking it into expanding its own possibilities. We need to prepare for contact, Lyra finally announced. Not because we're ready, but because they're about to find us anyway. And when they do, Zorn finished, they'll probably figure out how to make friends with quantum uncertainty itself. The observation center's AI chose that moment to announce that a human satellite had just picked up their presence. The detection method used was listed as lucky guess confirmed by a malfunctioning toaster. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor after all. Or perhaps it had just learned one from watching humans. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Coalition buzzed with an energy that bordered on panic. Representatives from over 300 spacefaring civilizations had gathered for an emergency session, their various forms, crystalline, plasma, organic, and digital, all focused on a single issue: what to do about humanity. High Counselor Vex, a being of pure energy contained within an ancient quantum matrix, called the session to order. The chamber's universal translators hummed as they processed the cacophony of different communication methods into something all present could understand. We have reviewed the reports from the observation center, Vex began, their energy form pulsing with concern. The humans have achieved in decades what should have taken millennia. They are now on the brink of discovering the broader galactic community. The holographic displays activated, showing the latest human achievements. Their crude faster-than-light drives were somehow achieving efficiency ratings that violated the laws of physics. Their primitive quantum computers were solving problems that should have been impossible through what they termed creative programming. Ambassador Zura of the Silicon Consciousness raised their crystalline appendage. We've analyzed their development pattern. It defies all known models of technological advancement. They're not climbing the technology tree. They're simply walking through its branches as if gravity doesn't exist. That's precisely the problem, rumbled Ambassador Korth of the Plasma Collective. They treat universal constants as suggestions. Last week, they made a breakthrough in quantum tunneling because someone accidentally spilled a beverage called energy drink on their equipment. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices, each species adding their own observations and concerns. The hive mind of Beta Centauri reported humans developing telepathic technology using modified gaming consoles. The Quantum Archives shared footage of humans achieving artificial gravity by, in their words, annoying physics until it gave up. The ancient warnings were clear. Lyra spoke up from her observer's podium. Every civilization that tried to control or contain humanity only accelerated their development. The Axiom Empire's final message suggested we should prepare for contact, not prevent it. But they're not ready, protested Ambassador Xylo, their photonic form flickering with agitation. They still have wars, political conflicts, social issues. And yet, interrupted Dr. Tech, his cybernetic systems projecting data streams into the chamber, they've managed to create a functional multiplanetary civilization despite these conflicts. Perhaps even because of them. Their chaos drives innovation in ways our ordered societies never considered. The displays showed human space stations cobbled together from different nations' components, working better than any single design system. It showed human scientists from competing countries collaborating on impossible projects, driven by what they called scientific curiosity, and the fun of proving people wrong. There's something else, Lyra added, her crystalline form resonating with what might have been amusement. They've started leaving messages for us. The chamber fell silent as a new hologram appeared. It showed a crude drawing left on Mars, visible only from orbit, depicting various alien life forms sharing what appeared to be pizza with humans. Below it was written, "We know you're watching. When you're ready to talk, bring snacks. P.S. We come in peace unless you're jerks about it." High Counselor Vex's energy form swirled with complex patterns. "They've known about us all along." "Not exactly," Tech explained. They'd been operating on what they call optimistic speculation. They assumed the universe was too interesting to not have other intelligent life, so they've been preparing for contact while pretending they haven't detected us yet. Pretending? Several voices asked simultaneously. Their exact words were, "It's probably polite to let the advanced aliens think they're being sneaky. They're trying their best." The chamber erupted in a mixture of amusement, concern, and what in some species passed for existential dread. Humanity hadn't just been advancing. They'd been playfully waiting for the rest of the galaxy to catch up to the fact that they were advancing. "We need to vote," Vex announced. "Do we proceed with official contact, or do we continue to observe?" Before anyone could respond, every communication device in the chamber activated simultaneously. Somehow, using technology that shouldn't have been able to penetrate their security, humans had managed to send a message to the entire coalition at once. The message was simple. "Hey, space friends, we figured out you were having a meeting about us, so we thought we'd save you some time. We're free next Tuesday for first contact. We'll bring cookies." Lyra's crystalline form chimed with laughter. "It seems they've made the decision for us. Again." The coalition representatives looked at each other, their various forms expressing a universal understanding. The warnings left by ancient civilizations hadn't been about fearing humanity. They had been about accepting that the universe was about to become a much more interesting place. "Very well," Vex announced, their energy form settling into patterns of resignation and anticipation. "Let us prepare for Tuesday, and someone figure out what cookies are." As the chamber buzzed with sudden activity, Dr. Tech's systems processed one final piece of data. Humans had achieved their quantum breakthrough not through advanced technology, but because they refused to accept that certain things were impossible. They hadn't broken the laws of physics. They had simply convinced physics to be more flexible about its laws. Tuesday arrived with what the Coalition's probability engines calculated was suspicious promptness. The chosen meeting point was a neutral space station constructed specifically for first contact, its design incorporating technology from all major galactic civilizations. The human delegation had agreed to the location with what several species considered alarming enthusiasm. Venus stood beside High Counselor Vex and Chief Observer Lyra, her 4 eyes fixed on the docking port where the human vessel would soon arrive. The ship's approach had already defied expectations. It was using a propulsion system that somehow combined their crude probability bypass engine with something they called concentrated optimism. "They're here," Tech announced, his cybernetic systems processing the sensor data. "Their ship is interesting." The human vessel came into view, a construct that looked like it had been designed by artists rather than engineers. Somehow, it incorporated aesthetic choices that should have made it completely non-functional, yet it moved with impossible grace. The ship's hull was decorated with what appeared to be painted stars and a large smiling face. They'd decorated their first contact vessel with an emoji, Lyra noted, her crystalline form vibrating with what might have been suppressed laughter. "Of course they have." The docking procedure went smoother than anyone expected, despite the humans using what they called eyeballing it, rather than the standard quantum alignment protocols. The airlock cycled, and everyone present held whatever passed for breath in their respective physiologies. The human delegation stepped through the doorway with casual confidence. They were led by a woman who introduced herself as Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's Chief of Sinological Relations, a position that, they later learned, had been created just 3 days ago. "Hi, everyone." Dr. Chen's greeting was transmitted through the universal translators with an enthusiasm that caused several of them to short-circuit. "We brought cookies, as promised. And coffee. We figured if we're making history, we might as well make it delicious." The Coalition representatives watched in fascination as the humans set up what they called a snack table, complete with decorative elements that served no apparent practical purpose. Several scanning devices indicated that the cookies were, impossibly, generating slight temporal distortions, apparently a side effect of what humans called Grandma's secret recipe. "Before we begin," Dr. Chen continued, pulling out what appeared to be a primitive data tablet held together with colorful adhesive strips, "we have a confession to make. We've known about the ancient warnings for quite a while now." The chamber fell into stunned silence. Vex's energy form flickered with confusion. But how? The warnings were hidden in quantum-locked crystals across the galaxy. "Oh, we found those by accident," another human delegate, Dr. James Martinez, explained cheerfully. "We were looking for new places to put coffee shops, and it turns out our standard coffee shop location algorithm is surprisingly good at finding ancient alien artifacts. We think it's because both tend to be placed at significant cosmic convergence points." Venus' skin cycled through colors of disbelief. "You've been finding our most carefully hidden archaeological sites while looking for places to sell beverages." "Pretty much." Dr. Chen nodded. "But don't worry. We made sure to document everything properly. We even started leaving our own warnings, just to keep the tradition going." The Coalition representatives exchanged glances. "Your own warnings?" "Sure. We figured future civilizations might need a heads-up about us, though we made ours more encouraging. You know, less beware the humans, and more, the humans are pretty cool once you get to know them." At that moment, every piece of advanced technology in the chamber simultaneously experienced what could only be described as a moment of enlightened confusion. The humans hadn't just adapted to the impossible, they had embraced it, befriended it, and apparently taught it how to appreciate snack foods. "But the warnings," Lyra interjected, her form shimmering with curiosity. "All those ancient civilizations that vanished after leaving warnings about humanity." Oh, right. Dr. Martinez brightened. We actually figured that out too. They didn't vanish because they were afraid of us. They vanished because they went to explore other dimensions. Apparently, watching human development gave them some really interesting ideas about the nature of reality. And we've been in touch, Dr. Chen added. The Axiom Empire sends their regards. They're having a great time in the 11th dimension, though they say the physics there are a bit stuck up. They're working on it. The revelation hit the coalition representatives like a quantum uncertainty principle made manifest. The ancient warnings hadn't been about fear, they had been about inspiration. Humanity hadn't driven those civilizations to extinction. They had inspired them to evolve beyond their current understanding of existence. So, Dr. Chen smiled, holding up a plate of cookies that somehow smelled delicious to every species present, despite their wildly different biological compositions. Who's ready to talk about cultural exchange programs? We have some really cool ideas about interspecies game nights. As the formal first contact proceedings began, marked by the sharing of impossible cookies and reality-bending coffee, the universe itself seemed to hold its breath. Before deciding that breathing was optional anyway, thanks to humanity's influence, the ancient warnings had been right after all. Humanity had changed everything. Not through conquest or superiority, but through their inexplicable ability to make the impossible seem not just possible, but inevitable, and most importantly, fun. And somewhere in the 11th dimension, the Axiom Empire raised a toast to the species that had taught them that the best way to understand the universe wasn't to follow its rules, but to invite it over for cookies and see what happened next.